Welcome back, everyone, to the Midnight Fire. Tonight, we're dimming the lights and diving into the chilling world of haunted objects and cursed technology. Forget dusty old dolls and creaky rocking chairs. We're talking about items that were meant to capture happy memories, but instead became vessels for something much, much darker. Our story tonight centers on a single, seemingly innocent photograph, a Polaroid that captured more than just a moment in time. It captured what many believe to be an uninvited guest, a third presence that wasn't physically there. This is the story of the Polaroid of the third guest. Our tale begins in the late 1990s, a time when digital cameras were still a novelty, and the instant gratification of a Polaroid was king. A young couple, let's call them Mark and Chloe, had just moved into their first apartment together. It was a cozy, slightly dated place in an older building, the kind with character and maybe a few quirks. They were excited, full of dreams, and eager to document their new life. One evening, to celebrate their first week in the new home, Mark decided to take a picture of Chloe as she sat on their new sofa, surrounded by unpacked boxes. It was a simple, happy moment. He raised his Polaroid camera, the classic kind that whirs and spits out the photo, a blank white square that slowly develops into a memory. Chloe smiled, the flash popped, and the camera produced the photograph. Mark set it on the coffee table to develop, and they went back to unpacking, thinking nothing of it. A few minutes later, Chloe picked up the now developed picture. Her smile faded instantly. She called Mark over, her voice trembling slightly. "Mark, who is this?" she asked. Mark looked at the photo. There was Chloe on the sofa, just as he remembered. But standing directly behind her, where there had been only a blank wall, was a tall, shadowy figure. It wasn't just a trick of the light or a strange pattern on the wallpaper. It was distinct. The figure was gaunt, with long, dark hair obscuring most of its features, but its form was undeniably human-like. What was most disturbing was its posture. It seemed to be leaning over Chloe's shoulder, its head tilted as if whispering in her ear. There was absolutely no one else in the room when the photo was taken. They were alone. The door was locked. Panic began to set in. They searched the entire apartment, checking closets, under the bed, every possible hiding spot. They found nothing. There was no rational explanation for the figure in the photograph. The couple tried to rationalize it. A double exposure? A flaw in the film? But Polaroid cameras don't really work that way. A single chemical process develops the image. It wasn't a smudge or a chemical burn. It was a defined shape. That night, they barely slept. Every creak of the old building, every shadow in the corner of their eyes seemed to take on a sinister meaning. The apartment that had felt so full of promise now felt occupied. The next day, they showed the photo to their friends and family. Everyone was baffled. Some were skeptical, suggesting it was a prank, but Mark and Chloe knew the truth. They were there. They were alone. The figure in the photo wasn't a joke. It felt like an intruder, one they couldn't see but who had made its presence known in the most terrifying way. The activity didn't stop with the photograph. In the weeks that followed, strange things began to happen in the apartment. Objects would move on their own keys left on the counter, would be found on the floor. Books would fall from shelves with no one near them. They would hear faint whispers when they were home alone, a soft, sibilant sound that seemed to come from right behind them. Chloe often felt like she was being watched, a cold spot following her from room to room. The cheerful atmosphere of their new home had been replaced by a constant, low-level dread. The Polaroid became the focal point of their fear. It sat on their mantelpiece, a constant reminder of the unseen roommate they seemed to have. They thought about throwing it away, burning it even, but they were afraid of what might happen. What if destroying the image angered whatever was attached to it? Mark, being a bit more practical, or perhaps just desperate for answers, started doing some research into the history of their apartment building. What he found was unsettling. Decades earlier, a young man had lived in their very unit. He was a recluse, an artist who had become increasingly isolated and paranoid before his life ended tragically within those same four walls. Neighbors at the time reported he often spoke of a shadowy companion that never left his side. Could this be the same entity? Was this spirit tethered to the apartment, and had the flash of the Polaroid camera somehow made it visible for a fleeting moment? The idea was terrifying, but it was the only explanation that seemed to fit. The figure in the photo bore a chilling resemblance to the vague descriptions Mark found of the former tenant: tall, thin, with long, dark hair. The stress became too much for the couple. The lack of sleep, the constant fear it was tearing them apart. The joy of their new life together had been stolen. They decided that they had to leave. They couldn't live with the feeling of being perpetually watched by an unseen entity. They packed their things, but when it came to the Polaroid, they hesitated. They didn't want to take it with them, fearing it would bring the presence to their new home. But they couldn't bring themselves to leave it behind for the next unsuspecting tenants either. In the end, they gave the photograph to a paranormal investigator who had become interested in their case after hearing the story through a mutual friend. They wanted it to be in the hands of someone who understood what they were dealing with, someone who might be able to find peace for the spirit, or at least contain it. The investigator took the photograph, and over the years it has become a minor legend in paranormal circles. It's been analyzed by experts who have all ruled out tampering or any known photographic anomalies. It remains one of the clearest yet most inexplicable examples of a so-called spirit photograph. The original image is now kept securely, and those who have seen it in person report a strange feeling of unease, a sense that you're not just looking at a picture, but that something from within the picture is looking back at you. As for Mark and Chloe, they moved far away and started over. The paranormal activity ceased completely once they left the apartment and the photograph behind. They never experienced anything like it again, but the memory of that shadowy figure leaning over Chloe's shoulder never truly left them. So what do we make of the Polaroid of the third guest? Was it a glitch in the chemical matrix of the film? A perfectly timed play of light and shadow that mimicked a human form? Or was it something more? Did the unique, instantaneous process of the Polaroid camera, a blend of chemistry and light, somehow bridge the gap between our world and another? Many paranormal theorists believe that the energy burst from a camera's flash can sometimes provide spirits with the energy they need to manifest, even for a fraction of a second. Perhaps that's what happened here. A tormented soul tied to a location was briefly illuminated by a moment of domestic happiness, its lonely existence captured on film for all to see. It's a chilling thought. A camera is meant to capture what's there, to preserve a memory. But what happens when it captures something that isn't supposed to be there at all? It turns a tool of memory into a window to the unknown. This story serves as a powerful reminder that not all haunted objects are ancient relics. Sometimes the most modern technology of its day can become a conduit for the paranormal. From ghost-in-the-machine glitches on our phones to strange voices on digital recorders, our technology is intersecting with the supernatural in new and terrifying ways. The Polaroid of the third guest is a perfect example of this. It's a piece of cursed tech from an analog era, a haunting image that raises more questions than it answers. What do you think? Was it a trick of the light or proof of a visitor from beyond? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thank you for joining me by the midnight fire. Remember to look over your shoulder. You never know who or what might be standing behind you. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more journeys into the strange and unexplained. Until next time, stay safe and keep the lights on.